Today I'm going to be doing a review of this book, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for the Street by Burton Richardson. This book came out in 2020. So it's a pretty new book. And Burton Richardson, trained with a lot of famous people, pretty famous person himself. He has this kind of for the street brand. He has like I think Silat for the street and, a bunch of different systems for the street, including Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for the street. And he has currently I believe a 4th degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and has been training for quite a while. In this book, he talks about the differences between sport jiu-jitsu as it has developed today. So in tournaments, sport jiu-jitsu, it doesn't address striking, it doesn't address multiple opponents or eyes or groin strikes, headbutts, pistols, stick attack, blunt weapon attacks, throat grabs, bites, grabbing one finger and, breaking it or pulling it back, like small digit manipulation, things like that. So sport jiu-jitsu has evolved to a point where it doesn't address those things because it doesn't need to, because those things aren't allowed in a sport jiu-jitsu setting. Old jiu-jitsu, traditional Brazilian jiu-jitsu did address some of those things, but not to the extent that Burton Richardson goes into it in this book, especially with weapons and things like that. He goes into detail, and there's some things I'll talk about later that he does that aren't done maybe traditionally. So in the book, he differentiates between safe to grapple situations and dangerous to grapple situations. So if it's a one-on-one situation and it's just, two people, no weapons, no other people around, I guess that's a safe to grapple situation. But for the majority of self-defense situations, it's a dangerous to grapple situation. And he talks about that. And everything that he emphasizes in this book, he says it has to be pressure tested through sparring, through resistant training. The categories in this book, he goes over submissions, and submissions that are, safe to do on the street. He talks about collar chokes and t-shirt chokes with a t-shirt. Addresses multiple attackers, pistol defenses, knife defenses, impact weapon defenses like clubs, things like that, as a small part on that, and striking while grappling and how to be, get used to that. Takedown defenses and show some takedowns in clinch. And his training is based on that it has to be done in sparring. So he breaks it down into 3 things. One is technical precision. So learning how to do the techniques technically. That's one aspect of training. So you have to learn all these things properly and how to do them properly. And then he also addresses power generation. So how to strike with power from each position, like knee on stomach, from the back position, from mount, from side mount, from all positions, how to strike effectively, from guard even, and how to generate power from those positions. So technical precision and power generation. The final thing that's really emphasized is fighting proficiency. So the way he does this is he will, like, every day when you spar, when you roll, somebody could pull out a knife, obviously a training knife or a training gun, and you have to address that weapon with the techniques he teaches, during rolling. Or you could do a whole round with just addressing that weapon. And then if you disarm it, you give it back, you work it again. But it's all under completely resistant training where your opponent's not trying to give you anything. That would be the fighting proficiency. And personally, I think all martial arts should be done this way these days, but they're not. It's made me rethink some of the other systems that I do and how, a lot of times you might practice a form or you might do something else and it's not really relevant, or even like a point sparring type thing or something, but it's not really relevant to the real world. So how do you make sparring safe and address those things? And in this book, he kind of goes over it. For instance, they'll put on headgear with a cage, and they'll grapple in that, but they'll allow strikes, fairly controlled strikes, or knife attacks or gun attacks, and the person has to disarm that person and gain distance. So Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for the street. If you're looking to not, have something more than just sport Jiu-Jitsu, or to add to your sport Jiu-Jitsu, this will give you some ideas, and it's a good place to start. Burton can also be reached online, and he's pretty available to anybody that wants to get in touch with him, unlike a lot of other kind of higher up people, in the martial arts. So if you're interested, you can contact him or just get the book. It's a pretty good book, and has lots of pictures and explanations on how to do the techniques. So I would recommend it. Burton Richardson, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for the street. Check it out. And if you can like, share, and subscribe, I would appreciate it. Thanks again.